right. We're so excited to be joined by the fantastic costume designer, Ruth Carter.
Yes.
You know her, well, you've really known her your whole life without realizing it because you've basically been the costume designer for every movie I noticed when I went to every single one. I don't know
I know,
how.
so many so that anything that has to do with the Black cultural experience, they go, did you do that?
I mean,
Like,
almost.
no,
I
I
mean,
didn't do that.
I mean, you go
There are
back
a few
to
out there I didn't do.
Malcolm X.
Yeah, and all the way back to one
Bamboozle.
of Tananari's guilty favorites, Surviving the Game.
I love that
Oh,
movie.
yeah,
I
that
love
was
that
really,
movie.
that was a long time ago.
So
I like that
long
one, too.
before Black Panther, you had proven yourself as one of the most sought after costume designers in Hollywood, really. And here you are. I'm not starting the Oscar drumbeat, but I'm just going to declare it because if like I tweeted, you should have your own Oscar category for Black Panther.
Oh, we can make up an Oscar and just give it to you.
Just the Ruth Carter Oscar. It's yours.
We won't have to make it up.
We
don't have to wait for the doggone Oscar.
No, that's true.
Consider us to be part of your fan club to get you your. We're part of your Oscar campaign.
Yeah,
We're just declaring it right now.
Whatever we can do.
So listen, I would love it if you'd give us a very brief, just like. How did you begin? Have you been sewing all of your life, designing all of your life? Give us just a little sense of how Ruth Carter came to be.
Oh, I guess I was always a kid that could work long hours by myself. I come from an artist family. My brother's fine artist, and my the brother that I'm closest in age to, we love to draw all the time and create these characters. So. The art part was kind of a part of my life, and I followed art through theater. In high school, I was in plays a lot, and then I would recite poetry, and it's called spoken word now, but back then it was Sonia Sanchez and Ed Bullins and Nikki Giovanni, and they were so much fun to recite. And so I got into the theater performance side of myself very early, and art was just a thing that we shared in the family. My brother was the fine artist, so it really didn't matter kind of what you drew or what you painted. Someone in the family would say, "Oh, that's nice, but did you see what Robert did?"
Right.
So we kind of always, looked up to him and really aspired to be like him. And little did I know I was kind of cultivating an interest in the arts myself. And my brother left a lot of materials behind when he went off to the Air Force, and my brother and I had soft chalks of different colors, so we could practice, color combinations and blending techniques. And we didn't know we were doing blending techniques. We had colored pencils. We developed characters that were like, we loved Stuart Little, and so Stuart Little, we had our own mouse, and he was a revolutionary. He had a tam, and he was always doing the Black Power fist, and we'd do all those things that kids do in the corner of the book, and have him, diving into a pool of water. When you flick the pages, it actually is kind of like a little moving picture. So we did that. We were kids, so we did all kinds of fun stuff like that. And there was also a console sewing machine in my bedroom that I used as my desk to do my homework, because once the machine was inside the console and the lid was on, it looked like a desk.
Right.
So one day I opened it up, and voila, there was this sewing machine. And I started just creating stuff. I mean, this was in the 70s, so patchwork jean jackets were out, and you could open up the side of your bell bottoms and put a wedge in there for different fabric and have some cool things. You can open up your jeans and make a maxi skirt and put some trim along the bottom, and it was pretty easy to do. So I was doing stuff like that on that machine, and I happened to notice in one of the drawers of the console there were patterns in there. I don't know where my mother got this sewing machine, but she certainly wasn't using it.
Right.
It was in my room for me to do my homework on. And I looked at the patterns, and the language in those singer instructional booklets and those patterns is like a whole nother like cryptic language. And so I made it my business to kind of figure it out, what SF meant, center front, and side seam and all of that. And then there was the Boys and Girls Club up the street from us, and I was a member of the Boys and Girls Club. And there they had sewing classes, and I took them. I was never really a great sewer. I really wanted to hurry up and get to the final result. I wanted to skip 9 steps, go all the way to the last step, sew that sucker together, and wear it out.
Yeah.
And I learned quickly that that's not how it works, But there was that part of me that could sit there at that sewing machine and learn that instructional manual and lay it out on some dress that I didn't want anymore. It wasn't like my mother went and got me a whole ream of fabric to practice on. We were cutting up our clothes or somebody else's clothes, and namely my mother's old dresses, right, and making clothes. So I had that interest, and I wouldn't say that I became like a great seamstress because of it. It just became an interest. So by the time I got to college, and I was, originally a special education major. I wanted to teach theater for the deaf, and I come from a bit of a legacy of teachers. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go to college to be a teacher. But theater was kind of in me, and performance was kind of in me, and the arts was in me. So I hung out in the theater department enough to change my major. And then once I did, I was involved, very much involved. And one time I auditioned for a play. I didn't make the play, but the director, instructor said, do you want to do the costumes? We don't have a costume designer. And I thought, hey, I had some experience with a sewing machine. I'll try it. And that just started a whole snowball. By the time I was a senior, I was known on campus as the costume designer at Hampton.
That's fantastic. And I'm going to ask another question out of order, since we're back in the past. In terms of Hollywood, that first big break. I know what it was like when I got my first book and I slept with it under my pillow. When was it you were like, oh my gosh, this is it?
Yeah, that was when Spike called me to ask me to do School Days.
Boom.
And he called me early one morning. He's in New York, I'm in LA. So he's calling you at 9 a.m., which is 6 a.m. in LA. So like I'm waking up, and he goes, Ruth. And I'm like, yeah, Ruth. Yeah, Ruth. And I said, who is this? And he says, this is the man of your dreams.
Really?
And I said, Denzel? And he was like, no, this is Spike. And he said, I want you to do my next movie, School Days. And I said, okay. A lot of things like kind of sink in slowly with me. I don't know what that is. The first time I was nominated, it sunk in real slow too. I went to work that day and told one person and told them not to tell anyone. Not that it was advertised and it was announced to the world that morning. I didn't realize that. I just told one person once I got to work and said, don't tell anybody.
Now, what was
but
that
I just
for?
got nominated.
What was that for?
Malcolm X.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Let me ask you a question. Obviously, you're going to be very sensitive to sight, but I'm going to make a guess that you're also very tactile. That the feel of a fabric matters to you. That there's something in your mind that clicks when the fabric feels right. Talk to us. Am I right about that?
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm kind of observant of people too. That's kind of what makes me a costume designer. And I wasn't always the tactile one with fabrics, but I remember one time I went downtown LA and there was this established diva costume designer in like the fabric store, and she was like, "What is this? What is this?" And she was touching everything. "What is this? What is this?" And I thought, "Oh my God, I want to be like her. She can just touch it. She can, she can just, she can just touch it and know it's crap." She was like, "What is this?" And I thought, I've never been able to have quite that attitude, but I just go in there and I'm thinking to myself, "What is this?"
So, so the feeling of a fabric will tell you how it will drape, how it will photograph, how it will feel, how long it will last, all of the above things I couldn't even imagine. What is it?
There's a lot of kind of sensory things that work with selecting fabric. The touch does give you an idea of the weight, but think of yourself if you have a drawer and you have all of your black things in one drawer, right? Your black tops, your pants, your jogging pants, your underwear, and everything is black. So you start rummaging through your drawer and you can actually feel that top because it's softer, the weight is lighter, it feels like a top. Mm-hmm. And the same thing happens when you're in a fabric store. It's just a roll of fabric, but you pull it out some and you feel the weight in your hands and you start saying to yourself, just like you are in your drawer of black things, this feels like a good weight for a pair of pants, or this feels too heavy, or this feels too thin for what I'm looking for. And you're also looking at other things, 12 versus, crepe and all of those things. But the weight of it is kind of what you feel in your hands.
Let's go to 2017. The first time you saw that cast photograph from Black Panther, where everyone is posed in those costumes you designed. And you said at UCLA that was the first time you were like, wait a minute, we did something really special here. Could you elaborate on that and why that photo struck you? You'd done the work. You'd seen the costume.
It was the first time they had all come together as a group. There was a photo session scheduled, and we were struggling to get people to work a 6th day because the shooting schedule was so demanding on everyone. I mean, people, even though they could make, 2 times their rate, they just wanted to have a day off. So I volunteered to do the photo session myself. And so I recruited like the jewelry designer and some other, lost soul who came in that day with me. And we got everybody dressed and they went to set and they were waiting in cast chairs, and one by one they kind of all showed up because it takes a different amount of time for each person to get dressed. And then they posed him, and Kwaku Alston, who's a famous photographer, he had the set lit with this beautiful color, and they all stood there, and I was going through and grooming them, and, I was tired too, I felt like I looked a mess, I didn't have my lipstick on, and I kept thinking to myself, I should stand right in the middle. I know Kwaku, he's a cool guy, he will let me stand right in the middle of this photograph to have one for myself. Maybe I should just sit down right in the middle of this photograph because it's great. And I kept looking around at other people that came from the studio, and I was like, does anybody else see how great this photo is? Does anyone, like I wanted someone to look at me, make eye contact, and go, wow.
Well, believe me, the fans were. The fans were. That photo was one of the few scraps that we had in the early days.
Let me say something about Black Panther in reference to an earlier film, Wonder Woman. A lot of people made the comment that the no man's land sequence, that there were women who were saying, my God, I've never seen anything like this. I never even knew I needed to see this. I felt that way about virtually every minute of Black Panther, where I had never seen anything like this. This was unprecedented. I have been a science fiction fan, comic book fan, black movie fan my whole life, and this was different.
Yes.
This was different. It crossed some critical mass of newness, of integration, where there were no pieces that were just sticking out like cloves in a ham. It was as if you guys had been dreaming together, as if the ancestors had been whispering in your ears.
Yes.
This was you deserve the money that this movie is making. You deserve the success
Right.
that is coming your way. This one, you knocked it out of the park.
And
Ruth.
Thank you. Daraka, are you still here, Daraka? Daraka was my assistant on
Well,
it.
bring
Come
Daraka
forward
on.
so they
Let's
can
say
say
hi
hi
to
and say
Daraka.
hi.
Seriously.
Daraka was my assistant. We're working together still. Like, I'm stuck like glue. This is Daraka.
Daraka.
Wonderful job to you too.
Nothing but love for you, dear. Thank you.
So let me ask you this: in terms of the people like Steve, and he's someone who read the first appearance.
I had the first Black Panther appearance in Fantastic Four,
Yeah.
and I remember that clearly when he whipped all of them. You know, and even then, it didn't hit me in quite. I mean, I liked it. I liked it a lot, and I liked some of the other iterations, but it never took fire when I saw T'Challa in Civil War, and I saw him and his father together. You so rarely see two men exchanging affection and respect like that. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, these are human beings. They have inwardness. They have a history. They have their own sense of who they are in the universe. The idea that you could take that and transfer it to an entire film, you know, on every level, the music, the art, the dialogue, the action, all together. You pulled off a little miracle there.
What's it been like to deal with the phenomenon?
I have my headset on. Daraka can't hear a word. I'm going to have to translate like I'm speaking a foreign language. He says it was incredible, and the relationships is what really stuck out.
Like for you in the middle of this cultural phenomenon that is Black Panther, not just people liked it, you know, people loved it. It's climbing still in the box office, surpassing Titanic. International phenomenon, whether it's Kenya, South Africa, Brazil, the story of empowerment and sisterhood and brotherhood.
Yeah, sisterhood, brotherhood.
What is that for you on the other side of it?
Well, you know, as far as it crossing cultures, I think that is the phenomenon of the Black Panther and bringing culture to such a huge medium of superhero. It brought culture to the foreground where I feel like culture has kind of dissipated. Like, people know who they are. They know they're from Africa. They know they're Italian. But their cultural roots has kind of is somewhat disappearing. So to bring culture to life, people are able to connect their culture to this culture. Because we combined sort of like a Maasai tradition of beading, or we upped the color red with the Dora Milaje, and we did things that were a combination of cultures that created somewhat of a subculture or a culture of its own that was based in the indigenous tribes of Africa. And I think people connect to that of all backgrounds and of all communities. So I've had people, even the panel we spoke in at UCLA, I've had people come up to me and say, you know, the embroidery reminded me of my home in Pakistan, you know. So that to me is really the wealth of the Black Panther, that it's so relatable to everybody on this earth.
You know, I know that your assistant can't hear you, so if you could ask her a question.
I gotta try to figure out how she can.
Well, you can just relate a question to her. What was her entry into her work? Where was she coming from? You know, in terms of the creation of all of this. How, you know, what did working on this project mean to her?
What did working on this project mean to you, Daraka?
Oh my goodness! Wow. Well, I got to work with Ruth, which was just amazing. And she was such a giving, creative designer. It's just great to watch her work, you know, to think, you know, how could I do things better and make choices better. And I loved, you know, just putting everything together, like going from that sketch and thinking, you know, how are we going to realize this? Because you had to use so many different vendors, And, I had an idea of how we could kind of realize it, and then we talked to Ruth about it, and she had another idea, and it was this kind of constant, toing and froing of, how we're going to achieve this, this thing that's on a flat piece of paper and make it real. And so it was exciting. It was just incredible to use all the different materials and colour. It was so great to work with colour. You don't ever get to work with these sort of colours very often.
That was one of the first things I noticed about
such a vibrance
to
the movie.
Sequence in the waterfall.
She's going to talk forever, so you can't. You have to put your hand up because she won't know that you're asking a question.
The waterfall sequence. I remember seeing all the colors of the different tribes up there. And the people dancing and moving and so forth. I think that was the moment in the trailer, the first moment in the trailer where I was looking at this. It wasn't special. I mean, it was special effects, sure, but it was just human beings in their splendor.
Splendor.
Yes.
Some part of me surrendered. That was the same thing with the movie itself. It was when the boats were coming up the river and
the big Warrior Falls scene.
Yeah, on the way to the Warrior Falls and the dancing on the boats.
On the boats,
Nikia and
the British tribe
just dancing with each other. That was a moment at which I felt like these are living people. These are people with an inwardness.
Yeah,
I fell in love with that movie.
And just to speak to the amount of just the meticulous eye that you have, I'm going to bring out my
your Zulu woman's your Isikolo.
Right? Okay, so I have this. I got a
It's
Katula.
such a perfect one.
I love it.
I
got it from Katula by
we
Africana.
could have used that. Next time when we do two, I'll invite you to the set. Bring your hat.
I'm going to take you up on that. But you wanted a very specific look for the one that Angela Bassett wore in the film. Yeah. You weren't buying it off the rack. And there was an actually very Afrofuturistic sort of process involved.
3D printing.
In making that. So why did that happen and how did that happen?
Well, to make that hat, we contacted a woman that teaches at UCLA, Julia Corner. We love Julia, and she was working with a fashion designer that was doing sculptural clothing, basically wearable art. And she teaches architecture, Julia does at UCLA. I never knew that. I keep saying she teaches at UCLA, and I never said exactly what. And she teaches architecture.
On the side. It's kind of like this kind of side pet thing that she does.
This 3D printing is like a side hustle, you know?
Well, why did you need to 3D print it in the first place? Why not buy it off the rack?
The reason is because I thought the Queen would have a perfectly cylindrical hat. Like, there would be no imperfections in the shape. With something soft, it can kind of get bumped and, or something. So I felt like, it would be a perfect design. So Julia did this with computer. The only way you can get that is with computer. And she used algorithms and, way over my head. And then...
Ruth gave Julia a whole lot of African patterned reference that she thought this would represent the royal family, and gave her some reference, and then she took that and also the Zulu hat reference and came up with her own version of what that could be.
Yeah.
And it kind of went through a few different stages because initially she didn't really hit the shape.
Yeah, the initial shape she sent us, it looked like a church lady's hat. It had a lot of leaves and flowers shooting out of it. I was like, she's got the wrong context. Did we tell her it was Africa?
Yeah.
Did we tell her it was? Yeah. Did we tell her it was Africa? Or did we say it was AME? I don't know. It was so wrong.
It was too organic because she works with really organic things, but then this needed to be more geometric.
And then finally she did this perfectly beautiful shape. And she also did the shoulder mantle that Angela wears with the hat. And we gave her some African lace patterns, and she used that and kind of mixed it around to make it fit within the shape.
Well, let's talk about the women of Black Panther. For me, that was one of the great surprises, was just the excitement. I didn't realize how dynamic those parts would be for so many different women.
Yeah.
It's like, so in terms of the Dora Milaje, of course, this is a favorite. For memeing, I mean, you see them everywhere. I have my inner Dora Milaje. You really wanted, there were a couple things you wanted to do with their color. You wanted it to really pop, that red. And also, if you could discuss the decision to dress them the way they are. I mean, in armor, as opposed to, say, the comic books. and
one more thing on top of that, so we can just get a long, unbroken string of you talking about this, is that Okoye on the car scene in Korea, you had to do some special work to make her gown billow in the wind. I want to hear you talking about that as well. So please go.
Dora Milaje.
Okay, all right. So there are certain characters that Marvel cares deeply about, and that is the Black Panther costume as well. Okay, I gotta take center stage now. It's a long answer. Okay, so there's certain characters that Marvel really, is invested in, and they work on them before I come into the framework. That's the Panther costume and the Dora Milaje. They have illustrations already kind of in the works, and there's all these discussions about them. And I also started doing some Dora Milaje illustrations, and I was using the comic book references mostly. And in the comic books, I like to call it like they're bombastic. They look like, wow, women. But they're a little bit scantily clad, and I think, that's because comic books are kind of made for boys and, men. Right. And so, and it was Ryan Coogler who said, these are real fighters. I want them to look like real fighters. I want them to have their vitals covered. They need to be protected. They need to wear armor. I want the armor to feel like jewelry, And when he said that, and I was standing there with an illustration that looked like the comics, I just wanted to just, I did. I actually said, I should be telling you that. I am the senior here. How are you, 30? And you're telling me to cover the women up? I was so happy to hear that. I could have just done a cartwheel. I mean, that he really wanted to show them in a beautiful way, but really have them covered. So Anthony Francesco is the guy who illustrated the sketch of the Dora. And we all added to it. We added stuff, and Ryan had requests, but it was his initial idea to create this costume. And other illustrators in the design group there at Marvel, they all took a stab. Everybody took a stab at it because the Dora is a fan favorite. But once we got that piece of paper, we said, okay, it has to have a meaning. It has to have a story. They just can't be these superheroes. They need to be from Africa. And so we decided that this tabard that goes down the front of their body needed to be beaded in such a way that it felt special, and it felt that it harkened back to where you think of the Turkana and their beading, and we had lots of references. And then the red, the Dora went from being like 20 strong to like 10, and the red of the Maasai and the Himba and the Turkana, it's just so striking that I wanted the red to feel like if you saw 2, it felt like 5. If you saw 5, it felt like 10. Yeah. And so we went with a much more vibrant red. And also the straps that go around the body of the costume, we called it like a harness. And the harness is made of like this hand-tooled leather. And when I was on Roots, the reboot, we had these South African leather craftspeople making all these leather crafts, from sacred necklaces to belting. And so I showed the craftspeople that were making the Dora this leather work. And I said that all of that leather work around the body needs to kind of have this feeling. And it worked out beautiful. Their back skirts are inspired by the Himba women that stretch that soft lamb, and they stretch the edges so that it ruffles, and they stud and put little rings on it so it makes little sounds, and so that's where the inspiration for that. So I think in combination, it felt like not only a uniform that could be passed down from generations, it also felt like an artifact. It felt like a real privileged uniform for a supreme fighter, and that's, I think, what I feel people are responding to when they see the door and they see them coming through in their neck rings and their arm rings that are brilliant gold, and they have a beautiful necklace that goes with it. Nothing was kind of tarnished. Everything was kept in. I felt like there's a special craftspeople in Wakanda, and they take the uniform and they make sure that the upkeep is perfect, because they're like the Navy SEALs, they protect the king. So that's why I think it was the most successful. So, it goes from there to Okoye going undercover in the casino, and we wanted to keep that fire red going. I mean, we looked at an orangey red, a blue red, and we collectively agreed on the color that it ended up, this very tomato-y kind of red, because Ryan also had a vision of the T'Challa and Okoye and Nakia coming into the casino and wearing the revolutionary flag colors, red, black, and green.
Oh my gosh.
So we needed to keep it real primary and not kind of sway from that. So when you see them enter, Nakia's in her green, he's in the middle in black, and she has her red. And that was kind of some of the subtle things that were happening behind the scenes.
Wow.
But we tested that dress several times on a stunt girl in the parking lot, driving around, holding onto an apparatus that they rigged, and to see how the back would, blow. I really wanted it to be, comic book, fantasy, So I made the special effects guys promise me that they would add an extra woof to it. And they said it didn't need it, it really didn't need it. It was carrying its own vibrancy and its own ballet in a way. But it was it started out 5 layers and 4 layers. I'm not sure how many layers it ended up, but it was several layers underneath the skirts to allow it to sort of have that flame life,
beautiful,
breathtaking. I mean, even when she leaped down from the balcony.
Oh yes.
I mean, I think I might have gasped out loud one of many times when I was watching the film.
Too. It's hard to watch the first time because I was like, okay, it works.
Yeah. And we could keep you all night, but we promised we would not do that. So I think the last question is going to be about Cherie, since we're speaking about the women of Black Panther. Such a fun character. Just go. I'll just say her name, you go. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the experience of costuming Cherie?
She was the last week of filming, and Letitia Wright, she kept saying to me, I'm in the last week, so my costume's got to be better than everybody, because it's the last week. I'm in the last week, and I'm like, oh, now she's adding more pressure. So while we were at the Warrior Falls, and she was there in her traditional costume with all its glamour and glory, I was going to set with ideas and sketches and photos, and it was hard to get people's attention, because of the Warrior Falls scenes were really complicated, but I was really happy with what we were gathering together, and people were just kind of like, at that point, we're at the end, they're like, yeah, okay. But then she started coming in for her fittings, and she was like, yeah, this is dope. And I was like, whew, okay, let's keep going. But I really wanted her stuff to feel like it was, protective, it was recycled, it was green, it was a lab coat in a different kind of a way. The mesh overlays were kind of my idea of her being in her lab and having some kind of protective cloth over her clothes. And Ryan really wanted her to have, a sneaker game. So from the first time you see her on the air pad and she's there, they're all standing there waiting for T'Challa walk to come out, and she walks away to get ready for the Warrior Falls. She's the only one in the film that wears a cape. She has a cape on in that scene. And, it was kind of, yeah, it was kind of fun, putting her together because she was that age that was not too young, and she was kind of like, she wasn't preteen, she was definitely teenage, but not quite all the way, woman yet, so you could have fun with her. And I always felt like since she was, the leader of the Wakandan design group that, she would be the coolest one there. And so it was fun coming up with her stuff. I mean, I even took things like, I remember I saw a pattern on a purse in our stock, and I was like, that's the perfect pattern. And then I brought it over, and they cut it up, and they made it a part of her skirt. So we were doing stuff like that. We were at the end of the budget. There was no more money to buy stuff. So I had to circle around, the leftover fabrics and try to pull something together because there was no more money.
Wow. Wow.
I have one tiny question for you. What piece of advice would you give someone who wanted to walk in your footsteps and try to be like you?
Oh. I would say, be honest, and honesty gets you a long way. Be honest with, your approach, what makes you passionate about doing this, don't pretend you love it when you don't. Find something about it that you love and really understand that in yourself. And that way it's easier for you to spend long hours doing it and not, time just slips away. It's already morning.
So what is it about this that you love? What is it that allows you to enter into this, go into flow, and access your genius? There's something about this. I suspect there's a simple statement about something here that you love. Would you please tell us what that is?
I love people.
Okay.
I love people.
That works.
I can look at people and see what makes them unique. I like to watch what makes people unique. I like to find the good in what people are representing, even if they're a dark character. I like to sort of, get into their soul and see what it is about them that brought them here and why they are who they are, and that's what helps me tell their story. Through clothes.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
It is a blessing to spend this time. You've been wonderful to talk to. I feel like we've known you forever.
It's like our third time together, isn't it?
I know, we're getting to be buddies now. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
Ruth.
you for coming.
Thank you. Three times a charm.
Sharing with our Afrofuturism students, and I'm not even kidding. We wish you all the best in the Oscar race, but you don't need an Oscar. We know. We already know. We know what you did. But thank you very much.
Let's put it this way. You don't need luck. That Oscar is yours.
Yes.
It is yours.
Thank you so much,
all right.
everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.